So welcome everybody. It is August 30th, 2023. This is Yoel Cortex, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris, and we've come together today to discuss the bibliographic ranking in Alma. We will begin by looking briefly at this PowerPoint. We will combine that with looking in Alma, and then we're going to jump right into Alma and start going through exactly what the bibliographic ranking is, examples of it. Let's in fact take a look at the table of contents. Those of you who are viewing this via YouTube, you'll have a link to this presentation in the description of the YouTube video. This presentation also includes links to the documentation, which we will also be looking at. So we'll be talking about a general introduction of what is the bibliographic rank, why do we have it, how can it be used, how we can view the bibliographic rank, how we can search by the bibliographic rank, how it's determined, how we came up with the algorithm and how the number is determined of the rank. Then we'll take a sample record and go step by step to see exactly how we get to that bibliographic rank. Then we'll talk about future plans for the bibliographic rank regarding community zone collections and Alma Analytics. So let's begin here. The bibliographic rank is a way to determine the quality of a record. Here it says completeness and richness, which basically is the quality of a record, whether it has certain fields or not, whether it's missing key fields. You may already know that we have another field called brief view or brief level. The brief level can also determine what is the quality of the record. However, the brief level is different than the bibliographic rank because the brief level is determined separately by each institution. Each institution determines what is their brief levels, what fields do need or do not need to be included. The bibliographic rank, this is an important part, the bibliographic rank is the same for every institution and the community zone. So when you're looking, for example, at community zone records, you can tell if you're comparing two or just looking at one, you know the quality of the record just by looking at the bibliographic rank. If you're in a consortia and you're seeing records from another institution, you know also that these records are determined using the same algorithm as everywhere else in the world. So it's not that one institution determined their bibliographic rank using different criteria. Let's see how we can view the bibliographic rank. So I'm in Alma here, and let's say I do a search. In fact, I'll start with this one, which I'm already searching on. So I did a search by something, and the bibliographic rank is viewable in two places. Number one is in the record view. So if I have a record in the results, and I click the title, for example, here, I see the bibliographic rank of this record is 80. Let's take another example. We'll do another search here. We'll take, for example, merging libraries and computer centers in Taiwan. Again, we see the bibliographic rank in the record view. Also, if we're searching a community zone record, we can also see the bibliographic rank. So if we come here, for example, and we do a search and we take a record that's in the community zone, for example, 21st Century Manufacturing, Second International Workshop, we see this is in the community zone. Here too, we can see this has a bibliographic rank of 102. The higher the rank is the more quality the record, or the more rich the record. The lower the number is the less quality of the record. We can also see the bibliographic rank when we're here inside the metadata editor. For example, here we can see this has a bibliographic rank of 88. I'll make this a little larger. We have a badge here on top, bibliographic rank 88. Another one, merging libraries. This is one we saw a moment ago in the record view from the repository search. Here in the metadata editor again, we have the bibliographic rank. This record here, the first one, is from the community zone. We can see there the icon of the community zone. And again, like in the record view for community zone records, we can also see the bibliographic rank. So here we have bibliographic rank of 96. So we can view it in the record view, and we can view it in the metadata editor. Let's move on. And this is what we just saw now. We saw that we can see the bibliographic rank in the metadata editor. We can see the bibliographic rank in the record view, another example. And we can also search by the bibliographic rank. It may be, for example, that the institution wants to retrieve all of those records which have a certain low rank, and maybe they want to retrieve them all and decide to enrich them, or decide how did they get records with such a low rank. In any case, there's many different ways to search, either by greater than or less than a certain rank, or exactly like a certain rank, or just greater or just less than, or between two amounts, two values. So let's see how that works. So by default, the bibliographic rank is included in the advanced search. The advanced search fields, I'm going to go into configuration just to show how the search is configured, and into resources and into the search indexes. So this is all of the search indexes with a value, whether it's able to be searched in the regular search or what's called sometimes a simple search, or the advanced search. And the field that we're interested in looking at is called the quality access. So let's go down here. I'm just going to make this a little smaller so we can navigate a little more easily. And for example, let's go and see the MMS quality score. This MMS quality score is the bibliographic rank. You can see in my institution it's enabled. By default in your institutions, when this was released, it's by default enabled. So you should have it in your advanced search. If you don't, you can come here and come to the MMS quality score and enable it here. And we can see here that it's listed as false for the simple search, true for the advanced search. So let's take a look at that. We'll come and do a search, an advanced search. And one of the fields here is bibliographic rank. We got bibliographic format, bibliographic level, and bibliographic rank. So I can come straight out and say, I want everything, for example, with a bibliographic rank equals 88, just as an example. So all of these will have a bibliographic rank of 88. Let's take, for example, the 1990s Stephen Feinstein. If we take a look at this, there it is, a bibliographic rank of 88. We can also say that we want the bibliographic rank to be greater than or equals to a certain number. So high quality records, for example, would be greater than 100. So all of these records in our results now will have a bibliographic rank greater than 100. Let's see, 1001 Celestial Wonders to See. So it's got a bibliographic rank of 102. And then we can also do a retrieval of bibliographic rank between values. So for example, here we can say advanced search and say bibliographic rank is greater than or equal to, for example, 50. Add a field here with the plus and say bibliographic rank is less than or equal to 60. So now we'll have everything between 50 and 60, including 50 and 60, because we said or equal to. So all of these will have a bibliographic rank somewhere between 50 and 60. Let's take this one here. So it's got a 52. And of course, we can also combine that with additional material. For example, we can say bibliographic rank is greater than or equal to 50. And for example, title, let's say word, we want just regular word from title. So we'll say title contains keyword Taiwan. So this is going to give me everything with the word title in Taiwan. in a bibliographic rank greater than 50. Let's look at an example. So we've got 100 common birds of Taiwan, and it's greater than 50. So that's the search by bibliographic rank. I'm just going to review here what we've got in the PowerPoint, what we already saw. So we have a field, an index that needs to be enabled. It by default will be enabled. And then we have the various parameters here we can search by: equals, not equals, greater than, or less than. We did an example where we had between values. We looked at the results and we saw that the results were between the values that we really searched for. Okay, before we get into how the bibliographic rank is determined, I'm going to take a look at the web at the chat and just see if there's any comments there, if anyone has any questions. So I don't see any questions here. Let's just do a little check that you're all still with me. Sometimes when there's no questions or comments, I like to make sure it's not because we lost connection. So just anyone just say, yes, we're still with you, but we don't have a question. Anybody? Okay, people are telling me they're with us. Okay. So let's move on now. How is that rank determined? So there's a link here in the PowerPoint to the online help that describes how the bibliographic rank is determined. I'm going to also put it in the chat here. So we've got here how the bibliographic rank is determined right here. There's a link in the PowerPoint. You can also do a Google search, bibliographic rank Alma. You'll also get it. If you were to come into Google and just say bibliographic rank Alma, maybe even put in there Ex Libris, and that too will bring you. There it is. Working with bibliographic records. It's going to have a link to the explanation on the bibliographic rank. We could even say bibliographic rank algorithm. All of our online help, not just what we're looking at here, is available via simple Google searches. So you're welcome to come here. Here we are, the bibliographic ranking in the metadata editor, the bibliographic rank algorithm. So everything we're looking at today, you can also find via a simple Google search, but I will put this link into the chat here in case anybody wants to save that for themselves. And while we're at it, I'll also put a link to this presentation. Here's the presentation here. I'm going to put a link to this page that has the presentation, bibliographic rank in Alma. So everybody's got all of the information there. I'll even put a link here directly to the presentation, not just to the page. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to look now at how that number which we've seen, how it's determined. So we look at two different levels, a breadth and depth. The breadth, as it states here, is a focus on coverage. What fields does it have? And then the depth is how many times it has that field. So some fields do have a depth, depending on the field. Some fields do not have a depth. And we're going to see examples right now, then we're going to look at an actual example inside Alma. So let's look down here a bit. So for example, just as an example, if a record has one of these fields, what's called a canceled identifier, a subfield Z of one of the identifiers, it has an importance of low. So an importance of low means it gets 1 point. It doesn't have anything for depth. In other words, it doesn't matter how many of those fields it has. It just gets a 1 point if it has at least one of these fields. However, for classification call numbers, the breadth is high. High means it gets 7 points. And it also has depth. Depth means how many times. So if there's a 050 and a 082, it will get 2 points for the depth. So it'll get 7 for the breadth 2 for the depth, which would be 9. That would be if it had a 050 and a 082. There is also a depth limit. So if this record had all of these fields, just as an example, it would not get 7 points on the depth, even though there are 7 fields here and it has them all, because there's a depth limit. So the depth limit here would be 3. So if it had all of these fields, it would get 10 points. 7 for being high on the breadth, 3 for having at least 3 of these fields with that limit, so it would be 10. Okay, someone asked, what's the relationship between the bibliographic ranking and the brief level? We discussed that at the beginning. I will go back and show it anyway. I also explained it. So the brief level is determined by each institution. So it differs for every institution. Institution A may say it's important to have 650 fields in ISBNs and ISSNs. Another institution may say that's not important. I want to have the 336, 337, 338 fields, the RDA fields. So the brief level, each institution determines however they want to determine it. The bibliographic rank is universal for all institutions in Alma. That means if you're in a network zone consortia and you're looking at records of another institution, you know that the bibliographic rank for them is determined the same as it is for you. You also know when you're looking at a record from the community zone, it also will have the same exact configurations for the bibliographic rank. Does that answer the question? Yes. Okay, so let's move on. So let's look, for example, at the 600 fields, because 600 fields is an important one. So here we are in the subject. So this has a depth limit of 15. So we already saw that high is 7. Let's take a look at that one more time. If it has high, it's 7. So when we got the subjects, it would get 7 for having at least one subject field, one of these fields. And then it would get another point for each subject field that it has, but only up to 15. So if it had 20 subject fields, it would get a rank for the subject of 22. 22 is the number because it's not going to get more than 15 because 15 is the limit. Other physical information is medium. So for medium, it gets a point of 3. 3 points for medium. And let's go back there. So other physical information here would get medium. And then it would also get points for the depth, but up to 3. So even if it has all of these, it's only going to get 3 points for them. Someone says they don't see the field 084. Correct. We don't have the field 084. This was developed together with a group of institutions, and in that group, 084 wasn't determined to be a field which would be influential in the bibliographic ranking. However, we could potentially add it if there was a group of people who said, let's add it. If you're familiar with the ideas exchange, that's an opportunity to open up an ideas exchange saying, please add the 084 to the classification call number section of the bibliographic ranking. But currently, 084 is not considered. We don't have every bibliographic field in here, by the way. There's many other fields which aren't here. For various reasons, certain fields were included and certain fields were not included. Okay, so let's take a real live example now. Let me just see if I got any other chats here that I missed. I saw those when they popped up, but let me go read through the chats. It looks like I answered everything that came in. Okay, so let's take a look now at a real live actual example, and we'll go step by step. This is what I already explained here, so we don't need to go through this anymore. By the way, we can also lose points There's a whole nother section here on validations. Let me show it on the screen here. So there's a whole nother section. If you have errors, you lose points. Let's even take a look at that. So if I come back into the metadata editor here, let's go back into Alma, back into the metadata editor. So this one, I'll make it a little larger now. I'll take one that's not in the community zone so that I can make a little change on it. And let's take a record here. I'll take anything. Let's take another one with Taiwan. Let's take this 100 birds of Taiwan. So let's say here, it has now a rank of 74. It says I have a warning in my record. The warning in my 900 is not valid. Okay, I'll get rid of the 900. Okay. Now, let's say I have an error here. Control function F6. Okay, 900's gone. Let's say I'm going to on purpose put an error here just to see what happens. We see that it's 74 now. Let's say, for example, I have a invalid indicator in one of my 246s. I think I'm not allowed a 1 here. Or let's say I got a 9 here. And let's say I have a 9 here, just to make things bad. So now I have 2 warnings, and it went down to 72. You can see now it's 72. I have 2 warnings. I'm going to remove those errors now. So this will be 245.10 as it should be. Actually, 0, it doesn't have an author. And 246, I'll make this a 3. I'll save again. Now I don't have errors, and it went up to 74. So as it states here, on every error, it loses a point. It also loses a point on accuracy, for example, and we'll take a look at an example of this as well. If the ISBN check digit is not correct, as you know, there's a way to validate that an ISBN is correct. If it's not correct, also a point is taken off. And we're going to see an example of that shortly. So let's now go to our real record. So let's take a look at this. Taiwan by Lisa Owings. All right, so we're back in Alma. I'm going to release all of these records just so we can start fresh here. And let's take Taiwan by Lisa Owings. Taiwan by Lisa Owings has a bibliographic rank. I'm going to make this a little bit, let's make it a little bigger actually. Okay. Has a bibliographic rank of 88. Let's go step by step and see how did it get to a bibliographic rank of 88 according to this bibliographic algorithm. And again, everything is in the PowerPoint too, so you'll be able to see that. So here's our record. It's got 88. And this is just the complete record, which we just saw now anyway. So first of all, it has a leader. This is just screenshots from the section here on the bibliographic rank. So it has a leader. That means, let's go back to leader. High, medium, and low is 7, 3, and 1. 1 is low, 3 is medium, 7 is high. So, leader. It has a leader. That means it's getting 7. Someone asked, where can we get the PowerPoint? Here's this page. I sent it out in the chat earlier in the session, and I'll send it out in the chat one more time. There's the page with the chat. I'm also sending the exact link to this presentation itself. Okay. Let's move on. So the leader is giving us high, which means it's getting 7 points. There's no depth on this because it doesn't matter how many liters it has because we know there's just going to be 1 liter anyway. So it gets 7. That's what it states here, a total of 7. So let's start writing this down. So we have for the liter, how do you spell liter? So for the liter, we're getting 7 points. Then we've got 008 common data. Now this one's a little more involved. For the liter, it's not just that it exists, but what does it have in the liter? Let's go take a look here. So, excuse me, the 008. So there's different 008s depending on the type of record. For example, it's looking at if position 6 is whatever, then it's a visual material. If position 6 is something else, it's music data. So here's our record. And our liter, excuse me, our 008 here, our 008 common data, it states first we're going to get 7 points for high. Then if we have these different values, we'll get up to 5 points. I say up to 5 points because that's the depth limit. So we're not going to get, for all of these bullets, is 7 of them. We're not going to get another 7 points on the depth because there's a depth limit of 5. So I'm going to look at this record in the metadata editor because it's easier to look at this in the metadata editor when we start looking at the 008, because then we can look at it in the form. So if I say Control F here, we see the form. So I have the dates in position 7 to 10. I have the dates in position 11 to 14. So that's these two here. Do I have the position 0 to position 5, the date, and do I have the type in position 6? Yes, I do. I've got everything. I've got the type in position 6. I got the date entered on the file. So already I have enough. You can see everything is filled in here. So I'm getting another 5 points on the depth. I got 7 because I have a 008. I have at least 5 of these values. That's giving me a total of 12. That's called the 008 common data. So I'm going to say here we have 008 common data equals 12. Next. Then we have the 008 for the specific type of record. In my case, this is books. It's not music, it's not video, mixed materials, etc. So if we come and we look at my liter position 6, we'll start with that. My liter position 6 is A. Again, we could see that more easily this way. Liter position 6 is A. That means when liter position 6 is A, it's books data. So I'm going to get 1 is low. Low, we already saw, means 1 point. Then there's nothing for the depth. So I have the 008 and I get 1 point. So that's 008 books data. I get 1 point. Okay, then identifiers. I have here, let's go take a look. The 010, the ISBN, ISSN, other standard identifier, publisher, distributor, etc. information. So I've got a 010, 2 020s. Let's go see what that's going to give me. I have 2 020s and 1 010. That means I'm getting a 3 on the depth. I'm getting a 7 for the breadth that's of high, so I'm getting a 10. So for the identifier, I'm getting a 10. Let's move on. Classification and call number. So let's see what I have. Oops, sorry. I've got a 050 and I have a 082. So that's 2 call numbers, 2 classification call numbers. So that means I'm going to get 2 points on the depth, 7 points on the breadth because it's high, means I'm getting a total of 9. So we're going to say for classification and call number, I'm getting 9. Let's move on. Names, the 100 or 1XX, the 7XX. Let's see what I've got here. Back into Alma. So I don't have any 700s. I got the 100. So I'm getting 1 point on that on the depth. And for the breadth, it's high. So I'm getting a 7 on that. So I'm getting a total of 8 on the names. So names, 8. Then title. So title, which is not relevant for the depth. It is relevant for the breadth with a high, which means 7. Of course, I have a 245. If I didn't have a 245, I'd get error messages, wouldn't be able to save it. So I'm getting 7 points on the title. So we'll say here, title, 7. Let's move on. Publication details. Again, there's no depth. It's just, do I have it, a 260 or a 264? If I do, then I get 7 points. For a 260 and or a 264, usually there wouldn't be an and on that. So I've got two 264s. So I'm getting 7 on that one. So let's say here, we're getting publication details, 7. Next, physical description. So this can be the 300 or it can be the 336, 337, 338. This one does have a depth. It's medium. Medium means we're getting 3. So I've got 3 points for that. And let's see what else I've got here. I've got the 300 and the 336, 337, 338. So that's 4 points. 4 on the depth and 3 on the breadth because it's medium. So I'm getting 7 on the physical description. So we'll say here, physical description, 7. Let's go on. Then series. Do I have 490 or one of these 800 fields or the 780, 785? And if so, how many do I have? So let's take a look here. Medium. If I do have one of them, I get 3 points because it's breadth medium. And we see here that I have a 490 and I have an 830, a 490 and an 830. So I'm getting 2 points on the depth because I have 490, 830. I'm getting 3 points because it's medium, total of 5. So here we're saying series equals 5. And let's go on. Bibliography. Do I have a 504 field? It's low means I have 1. I get 1 point if I do. There's nothing on the depth. Let's go see if I've got one. I do have a 504 field. So I'm getting 1 point on the bibliography. So let's say bibliography 1. Next. This needs to come up to 88. 505 content field. There's no depth on it. If I have it, I get 3 points. Let's take a look. 505. Back to our record. I do have a 505. So I'm going to get 3 points because it's medium. And next, let's say a summary field. Again, I'll get 3 points. Nothing for the depth. It doesn't matter how many I have, but if I have one, at least one, for the summary, I will get 3 points. Let's see if I've got one. 520 summary. I do. So I'm getting 3 points on that. And 651. Okay, this is for the subjects. So let's see how many I have. If I have at least one, I get high. Let's go see how many I have. I've got one. I have a 651 only. So I get 7 for the high. I get 1 for the depth is going to be 8. So for subject, we get 8. Subject equals 8. Let's see now. We have 7 plus 12 plus 1 plus 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus 7, another 7, another 7, 5, 1, and 3. Plus 3 again, and plus 8. Let's just see if we got that correct. We got 8, 3, 3, 1, 5, 3 sevens, 8, 9, 10, 1, 12, and 7. Okay, so let's see this. I think we can just put this right into Google here. Let him do the math. 88. What do we have in Alma? 88. So that's a full example of how the bibliographic rank is determined. If I were to come and remove one of these, for example, let's see the 651, which gave us 8 points. I will change that now. I'll make this a 659, even though it's not correct that it's a 659. I'll do it anyway. It's down to 80. It went to 80 when I no longer have the 651. You see, it's 80. I'm going to put this back to the correct 651. Save it. And it's back to 88. Also, we said that we lose points on the validity and accuracy. For example, if I'm going to have an illegal first indicator in my 264 and try to save this, let's make this a 9. And save this, it went down to 87. If my 020 isn't correct, I'm going to stick another value in here, which is illegal. Down to 86. I'll fix both of those. I'll get rid of this illegal value in my ISBN. I'll get rid of this bad first indicator. Save that again. Back to 88. Okay, I'm going to stop and look at the chat for a moment, see if there's any questions or comments that I may have missed. Let's see here. Nope, I don't see any questions. If there are any more questions that I may have missed, feel free to send in the chat. I see we got a nice crowd here today. Nice sized crowd. Okay, so let's now talk about our future plans. And that we're just going to use the PowerPoint for that because it's future plans. So I don't have something to actually show. So we'll head back here. Okay. And so all of this is in here. This is exactly what I've showed all along the way. You're welcome to look at this on your own, of course, but these are the exact examples we did. We saw it changing. So for community zone collections, we're going to have a view when someone is viewing the collection, which will give the overall average bibliographic rank of the portfolios in that collection. And as you can see here, it'll say low, medium, or high, depending on if the average bibliographic rank is below 39, between 40 and 79, or between 80 and 150, or 80 and higher. So let's take a look at the next slide. We'll see exactly how that will appear. And that, by the way, was both a NIRS candidate. It wasn't a NIRS request. NIRS, I don't know if you're all familiar with NIRS. NIRS is what we call the new Ex Libris requesting system, where representatives of IGLU can get together and suggest enhancements. So that's the NIRS. So this was a candidate. It didn't pass enough votes to actually be done as a NIRS enhancement. However, it also came in through the Ideas Exchange. So we did it through the Ideas Exchange. And how is it going to look? Like this. Someone will search the electronic collections, and it'll have here bibliographic rank. So the average here is 55.1. High or 20%. 20% of them are high. 40% of them are medium. 40% of them are low here. And like we just saw on the previous slide, between 0, 39, 40, 79, 81, 50, as it also states here. So 20% of them high have a rank of 80 or higher. The 40% of them have between 40 and 79, and 40% of them have 39 or lower. So just by looking at the electronic collection, you can see the quality of the bibliographic data of the related portfolios. We're also going to be adding to analytics. It's going to be part of the bibliographic details folder. And there you'll be able to also do the filters, the displays, etc., of the bibliographic rank. So I'm going to stop sharing, and let's see if there's any final questions or comments before we close. Anybody? So as usual, we will be posting this to our YouTube channel and sending out a message that the recording is available. It will also be available on our education and webinars page in the on-demand section. And if there's no more questions or comments, then we will stop here. And thanks everyone for joining. Much appreciated. And we hope to see you in our future sessions. Have a nice day.